Have you ever wondered what timeless truths can be derived from the Ten Commandments, even in our modern world? In an age dominated by technology, rapid change, and moral ambiguity, the relevance of these ancient directives might seem distant. Yet, I encourage you to hold that thought, because what lies ahead in this exploration will open your eyes to the transformative wisdom embedded in these commandments. Stay with me as we unravel how God's guidance, given thousands of years ago, can breathe life into our everyday existence today. The Ten Commandments, also known as the Decalogue, are found in two prominent passages of the Bible, Exodus 20 verses 1 to 17 and Deuteronomy 5 verses 4 to 21. These directives were not merely rules, they were a means to establish a relationship between God and His people. They serve as a moral foundation anchored in love and respect for both God and fellow human beings. As we dive deeper, let's remember that these commandments are not merely limiting edicts but profound expressions of God's desire for our well-being and peace. Let's start with the first commandment, "You shall have no other gods before me," Exodus 20 verse 3. This commandment challenges us to question where our ultimate allegiance lies. In a world filled with distractions, career pursuits, social media, and material possessions, are we prioritizing our relationship with God? Have you ever found yourself caught up in the whirlwind of life, inadvertently placing other gods before Him? Consider how Jesus affirmed this principle when He said, "You cannot serve both God and money," Matthew 6 verse 24. What does it mean to live fully devoted to Christ in our consumer-driven culture? As we ponder this, think about the freedom that comes from placing God first. It invites us to rest in His sovereignty, allowing proactive faith rather than reactive worry to shape our decisions. This brings a level of peace that surpasses understanding, Philippians 4 verse 7. Imagine what could change in your life today if you committed to focusing your heart and mind on Him above all else. Moving on to the second commandment, "You shall not make for yourself a carved image," Exodus 20 verse 4. This is about more than just idols of wood or stone. It reflects our human tendency toward creating false representations of God or limiting Him to our understanding. Have you ever thought about the idols in your life? They may not be physical statues, but perhaps fears, biases, or misconceptions that shape your view of God. This commandment invites us into a deeper understanding of His nature, combating the temptation to fit God into a limited box. Scripture tells us, "God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship in spirit and truth," John 4 verse 24. This invites us to embrace the complexity of God rather than reducing Him to our preferences. The beauty of this commandment is its call to continually seek God's true character as revealed in His Word. What could you discover about God today if you ventured outside your comfort zone of understanding? The third commandment states, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain," Exodus 20 verse 7. Here we are challenged to recognize the power of His name and the reverence it deserves. In a world where casual speech often undermines significance, how do we ensure that our actions reflect the holiness of God's name? This is a call to integrity in both speech and conduct. As Christians, we are ambassadors of Christ, 2 Corinthians 5 verse 20. What a profound identity that entails. How can you ensure your life reflects the power and righteousness of Christ each day? The fourth commandment instructs us to remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, Exodus 20 verse 8. In our fast-paced world, this command can feel countercultural. Yet, it offers profound wisdom about the necessity of rest and our need for connection with God. Have you noticed how quickly life fills with obligations, leaving little room for spiritual rejuvenation? The Sabbath is not simply about avoiding work, it's a vital invitation to pause, reflect, and engage with our Creator. Jesus, too, reminded us that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, Mark 2 verse 27. How could setting aside time for God transform your week? The fifth commandment states, "Honor your father and your mother," Exodus 20 verse 12. This directive fosters respect within the family unit and society. In a time where authority figures are often questioned or even disregarded, it challenges us to examine our attitudes toward those in our lives who have paved the way for us. The nuances of honor may look different across relationships, yet the essence calls for gratitude, respect, and love. It invites us to consider, how can our interactions with parents and elders mirror the love God has for us? Next, we find the sixth commandment, you shall not murder, Exodus 20 verse 13. Beyond the physical act, this command also encompasses our attitudes toward others. Jesus further expands this in Matthew 5 verses 21 to 22 by teaching that harboring anger or contempt is equally grievous. How do we cultivate kindness in our words and actions, especially in a world filled with division and conflict? This is an opportunity for reflection. What steps can you take this week to promote peace and reconciliation in your circles? The seventh commandment tells us, you shall not commit adultery, Exodus 20 verse 14. At its core, this command emphasizes loyalty and the sanctity of marriage as a covenant relationship. In a society that often trivializes commitments, how do we uphold the value of fidelity? Reflecting on Ephesians 5 verses 25 to 33, we see marriage as a reflection of Christ's relationship with the church. How are you honoring your commitments, not just in marriage but in all relationships? The eighth commandment is clear, you shall not steal, Exodus 20 verse 15. This command goes beyond physical theft, it encompasses honesty, integrity, and fairness in all dealings. In our consumer-oriented culture, where success is often equated with acquisition, how do we maintain integrity in our pursuits? I encourage you to think critically. Are there areas where you may be tempted to cut corners or justify dishonest behavior? Consider how the biblical principles of generosity and trustworthiness may shape your interactions this week. The ninth commandment warns us, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, Exodus 20 verse 16. In today's world, the impact of words can be monumental. With the rise of social media and information sharing, how do we navigate truth and misinformation? Proverbs 12 verse 22 tells us that lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are His delight. As ambassadors of truth, how can we commit to fostering an environment where honesty reigns? Finally, the 10th commandment states, you shall not covet, Exodus 20 verse 17. This command elevates our focus away from comparison and envy towards contentment in what God has provided. Consider how envy can quietly erode your joy and relationships. Paul provides us with a remedy in Philippians 4 verses 11 to 12, stating that he has learned to be content in all circumstances. What areas of your life could benefit from a fresh perspective of gratitude and contentment rather than covetousness? As we reflect on each of these commandments, it becomes evident that they are not merely a checklist of obligations but a pathway to authentic living. The truth is, following these commandments is a journey, a lifelong undertaking that constantly invites us into deeper relationship with God and a more vibrant existence within our communities. So, how do we practically incorporate this wisdom into our lives? It begins with a heart posture of submission to God. Daily prayer and meditation on His Word can guide our decisions. In Galatians 5 verses 22 to 23, we are reminded of the fruits of the Spirit, which align beautifully with the essence of the commandments. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness can flow through us as we surrender our will to God. Moreover, fostering community is crucial. We are designed for connection, and surrounding ourselves with fellow believers can provide support, encouragement, and accountability as we strive to live according to these timeless truths. Hebrews 10 verses 24 to 25 exhorts us to consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Together, we can nurture an environment in which the commandments are not seen as burdens but as gifts leading us to a flourishing life. Are you curious about how your life could transform if you align closely with these commandments? Dare to take a step back, identify which areas resonate deeply with you, and commit to incremental changes over time. The beauty of God's grace allows us the freedom to start anew daily, reflecting His love and righteousness for ourselves and the world around us. Now, In conclusion, let's return to the essence of the Ten Commandments. They were not issued from a place of rigidity but born from the heart of God, desiring to lead us into abundance. As we seek to understand and implement their truth in our lives, we affirm our commitment to God, express love for our neighbors, and reflect the character of Christ in our world. So, as you ponder the wisdom of the Ten Commandments, let it ignite a fire within your spirit, one that constantly seeks to align every facet of life with the profound love of God. Each commandment serves as a stepping stone on our journey of faith, drawing us closer to Christ. Remember, His grace is sufficient. He empowers us, equips us, and walks alongside us every step of the way. What comes next in your journey of discovery? It's entirely up to you, but rest assured, each moment you choose to embrace God's wisdom unlocks new avenues of grace, understanding, and fulfillment. May you find joy in the journey, strength in obedience, and peace as you forge ahead in the footsteps of Christ.